It has become natural for us to be constantly connected to our smartphones, using them for a wide range of activities such as work, leisure, and even pure habit. At this very moment, you are likely watching this video on your smartphone, or at least it is nearby charging. Undoubtedly, technological advancements, especially in mobile devices, have brought many conveniences to our daily lives. We can now communicate, shop, research any topic, and perform thousands of other activities using just a small device that fits in our pockets. However, despite all the wonders smartphones provide, there is a dark side, so to speak, to all this technology. Our smartphones have become so present in our daily lives that they can identify all our patterns of consumption, places we visit, people we meet, and much more. Have you ever thought that by being constantly connected to our phones, we are allowing companies to use this technology to spy on us? This has been happening for a long time, and in today's video, you will understand more about the dark side of technology and how our phones are spying on us. But before we begin, please leave a like on this video if you are interested in the topic and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos from us. You may have experienced this situation before. You search for something on Google, like a black t-shirt, and suddenly black t-shirts start appearing all over the internet, even on other sites and social networks that you've never visited or searched for a black t-shirt. This happens due to cookies, which are pieces of information that your phone stores to facilitate the loading of relevant information for you. The main objective of cookies was to load the websites you visited most frequently faster, in a time when the internet was quite slow. However, it was soon realized that cookies had the power to store a user's consumption preferences, and they began to be used to show more products related to those that you had already shown interest in. All websites, applications, social networks, and even devices like phones began storing cookies with one goal in mind: to sell this information to companies that wanted to carry out targeted advertising for people with a higher potential for purchase. At first, the idea seemed brilliant because people received ads for products they were looking for, advertisers increased their sales, and technology companies like Google and Meta made money displaying ads to highly qualified audiences with a high potential for purchase. But what do you think of targeted ads? Do you think it's cool because it shows products you're actually interested in? Or do you think it's a complete invasion of privacy that borders on espionage? Leave your opinion in the comments. However, despite many people being worried about the sale of this stored information and already seeing it as espionage, this is just a small part of what has been happening. Soon, companies realized how lucrative it was to map a user's preferences. More data was collected, and more information was stored. GPS data was collected to offer local ads, age to offer compatible products, relationship status to offer promotions, income, job, and so on. Big tech companies were looking to collect and store more and more information to sell to advertisers. The case became so serious that in 2018, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, who currently leads Meta, was summoned to testify to U.S. authorities about data collection from users on the social network. As information became public, other companies like Google were also discovered performing the same procedures, bordering on espionage, with all users of both its search engine and smartphones. In 2019, Apple responded to the abuses that were being committed by implementing security measures on their phones and other devices, where users now have complete control over the information shared with applications. Google also implemented a similar solution on smartphones using the Android operating system. But now the problem is solved. Once you define what you share, you just don't share anything, and you're free from phone spying, right? Wrong. Although you do need to grant permissions to applications, they still have a way to track all the activities you perform, simply because if you don't grant any permission, they won't work. Let's take an example. If you use the Uber application, it asks you to create an account, and in doing so, both the application and the smartphone already have access to your name, CPF, and date of birth. Then it requests a means of payment, and if you opt for a card, it will already have access to one more piece of information. The application also requests your location so that a car can reach you, and later on, the more you use the application, the more it will know where you are going, where you came from, and which places you frequent the most. It seems a bit strange for a company to know so much about its customer, don't you think? This is just an example, but practically all applications perform a similar process, and before you know it, you are releasing all the data they request, and on top of that, your phone is finding out everything, because before the data reaches the applications, it needs to go through it. In this way, both your phone and the applications you use begin to know more about you, sometimes even better than you do, because you may not remember all the places you went this month, but your phone does. We are being watched all the time, and not just on what we type, what we buy, where we go, or who we meet. An even darker side is already being used today. You have certainly been in this other situation. You are at home talking to a friend, and during the conversation, you tell him that it's been a while since you've had a chocolate cake. Then you open some social network, and magically ads of bakeries near you start appearing, with images of that wonderful chocolate cake. It's almost as if destiny is acting for you to order right now and satisfy your craving. If you have identified this situation, watching, leave your story in the comments. I would like to know if this stroke of fate has happened to you. But know that there is no fate involved. What happens is that phones are currently even listening to our conversations, even while they are locked. Because when you use a virtual assistant like Siri or Google Assistant, for example, you grant permissions for your smartphone to use the microphone and listen to your conversations all the time. And in this move, more information is collected to be sold to advertisers later on. Yes, our phones are even spying on our personal and private conversations. Companies claim that they do all these actions with the consent of users, and that the data is used only to improve the user experience. In theory, it makes perfect sense, but in practice, there are some problems. The first is that consent is practically mandatory because otherwise, it would not be possible to use any application and often not even the smartphone. And the second is that yes, these actions can even improve the user experience. But what about when companies decide they want to use them for other purposes? Who will stop them? The justice system won't be able to protect you. After all, every user has consented to sharing their information and the company has the right to it. Do you find this absurd? Then tell me in the comments, when was the last time you read the terms of service of an app before accepting and continuing? Have you ever read the terms of service before creating an email account? And before making a purchase on the internet? So far, this phone espionage has not been affecting our lives, and probably companies only do it for profit. But who guarantees that in the future they can't be used for destructive purposes? Who guarantees that the combination of our phone espionage with artificial intelligence cannot destroy humanity? Don't believe it? Then watch this video about how artificial intelligence will be responsible for the end of humanity as we know it.